I love you. I know you think it's him. I know you think it ought to be him. But it's not. It's you. And when I see you again, I'm gonna tell you properly. Just to see your stupid face. My life was so boring before you just dropped out of the sky. So just get your stupid face where I can see it, okay? Okay?
She'll be safe for now. No point in a dead hostage.
Can't you save her?
I can track that signal back, take us right to her.
Then why haven't you?
Because then what? I find her, and then what do I do? This isn't an alien invasion. They live here. This is their empire. This is kicking the Romans out of Rome.
Rome fell.
I know. I was there.
So was I.
Personal question.
Seriously? You?
Do you ever remember it? 2,000 years waiting for Amy. The last centurion.
No.
You lying?
Of course I'm lying.
Of course you are. Not the sort of thing anyone forgets.
But I don't remember it all the time. It's like there's a door in my head. I can keep it shut.
Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast with me, Matthew, and as always, I am joined with...
Hello, I'm
the
Scott.
high quality
Yes,
show that we have. It's a high quality show that we
is the
have
burp
here.
is the burp now part of your name or?
I don't think I'll be able to do it on command. I've never been able to burp on command.
Oh,
It's
I
also
can.
not a talent that I have. Oh wow, impressive.
It's like my
I
one
want to
talent.
start off this episode. we are continuing on from last week, looking at the Impossible Astronaut, and this week we are looking at Day of the Moon to cap off this two-parter story, this introduction to the Silence, the kickoff to the whole big story in Series 6. There's a lot to dive into, but before we do that, I have to make an apology, Scott.
Oh, okay.
And that is, in the last episode, there was a bit where I said I'm going to cut to a clip. And then I forgot to edit in the clip. So instead, it's about 40 seconds of silence, and then we start talking again. So to make up for that, I'm going to include the clip right now, so that that way people that watched last week's episode can appreciate the clip rather than just sitting in silence. So that clip's going to play right about here.
When I was a little girl, I had an imaginary friend. And when I grew up, he came back. He's called the Doctor. He comes from somewhere else. He's got a box called the TARDIS that's bigger on the inside and can travel anywhere in time and space. I ran away with him, and we've been running ever since.
Oh yes, a good clip. I certainly remember what clip you were going to include. That is a great clip to include. It's either funny or really dramatic, or.
It was the clip of the BBC America intro for Doctor Who.
Yeah.
That we recorded for a very long time last week, and the edit took a very long time to get done, and so I was trying to do it quickly, and I forgot that I said I was going to include a clip, so it just never happened.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, but it is just silence considering the episode we're covering. You could have just said,
Yes.
"Oh yeah, I included footage of a silence."
That's what happened. I was editing it, and then I saw a big alien, and I forgot to do it. So easy peasy.
Happens to
but
the best
without
of
much
us.
further It does. Without much further ado, let us actually jump into the episode now. and take a look at Day of the Moon. Unless you have a preamble beforehand. I don't know if you do.
No, but hey, we are recording
Professionals.
this on the 16th of July, 2024, and of course it is 55 years since Apollo, was it 11? Yeah, since Apollo 11 launched. So yeah, pretty weird
Nice,
coincidence.
very cool.
And of course, when this episode goes live, tomorrow will be the 55th anniversary of the moon landing, so exciting times.
Very cool. 55 years since Kubrick faked the moon landing.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's weird he isn't in this episode.
Yeah, very strange. Very strange. I also was about to say something, but I don't remember what it was, so let's just jump into the episode. Day of the Moon.
See you next time. Call me.
What? That's it? What's the matter with you?
Have I forgotten something?
Oh, shut up.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
What's wrong? You're acting like we've never done that before.
We haven't.
We haven't.
Oh, look at the time. It must be off. But it was very nice. It was good. It was unexpected. You know what they say? There's a first time for everything.
And a last time.
So, this episode opens up for a very long time. This cold open goes on 6 minutes, including the recap from last week, that is. So it's probably closer to 4 or 5. But it's a decent enough cold open where we see Amy running through the desert getting chased by a bunch of men in black. Who like come out with a body bag and like they're gonna kill them, and it's Canton that's leading them.
Of course, there's been a 3-month time skip, and if you watch anime, you know that means everyone's in their ultimate form right now. So yeah, I think the time skip really works for this episode because you're kind of in the character's mindset. You're kind of making up for kind of lost time, wherever you're being caught up on the events. So you're really just in the character's mindsets, and it's kind of cool because there's really been no progress because they still need to figure out what the aliens actually look like and all that kind of stuff. So it's probably like the hardest villain the Doctor's ever defeated without being the most dangerous villains, because we don't really kill. There's like 2 kills we do throughout the entire story.
I also don't really know why they kill.
Yeah.
Like they kind of kill those people in the last episode for no real reason. Like, did that lady have to pop like a balloon? I don't think so.
I guess it's just to add some threat.
How did? Yeah.
Gotta have a body count.
But yeah, no, I like how this episode opens up with a time skip as well. It allows you to feel like you've been chasing these monsters for that length of time, because you're like, oh, we're 3 months in, but I don't know any information about the guys. I don't remember anything. It's like, cool, neither do they. They've just been doing this for 3 months. You've just woken up out of a coma straight into the action. It's very good. Of course, if we remember how last week's episode ended, it was with Amy murdering a child, and I think the transition of her running away from the men in black at the start of this episode is kind of a fun little misdirect where you're like, oh, is this because she murdered a child on the episode last?
Fucking Moffat fucking loves his misdirects, and he goes a solid 6 minutes here of just full-on misdirects.
He does.
Sometimes his misdirects go on for way too long, and it gets frustrating as an audience member. Sherlock was heavy with all the misdirects, and the logic didn't quite add up because, sometimes Moffat's trying to be a bit too clever. Here, it's just enough. It's enough to get you hooked into the story.
Yeah. We cut to Matt Smith, who is chained up at Area 51, which very conveniently for the budget is just a big bunker. with no windows anywhere.
Yeah, it's a little bit disappointing that the first sight of Area 51 within the Doctor Who universe is just kind of part of a checklist of, oh, what's all the fun stuff we could do in America, you know? Let's do absolutely nothing in Area 51, whereas Area 51 could have been its own episode, you know? They also, you know,
I'm surprised they haven't gone back to it.
They just tried to do Area 51 with the season 1 final, Shooty's season. There was going to be a scene where we encounter Susan Twist in Area 51, but it got cut out at the start of the episode, so we're still waiting for that. That's a good concept for an episode, you know, discover the true meaning of what happened at Area 51. It's a good concept.
Yeah, you could do something fun with Area 51.
The best Area 51 in, you know, science fiction television must be Futurama. The best episode of Area 51, you know, the one where he fucks his own grandmother.
Yeah.
Iconic episode.
That is pretty good, and it's timey-wimey as well. Yeah. You know, like that could be a Doctor Who episode. The Doctor is sitting inside a circle on a chair, tried up and changed. The chair he's sitting in looks like it's straight up from a primary school.
Probably
but
is.
They are building a Lego house around him with jet black bricks, and he's not entirely sure what material they are using to do it. As we then
and of course he
York.
has a fucking beard, and everybody, I remember the hype around this beard. Oh my god, the Doctor with a beard, it's the first time, and it looks shit.
It's a really bad beard. It's very clearly not a real beard.
Yes.
like it is bad looking. It is very bad looking for sure. Which I guess is kind of what they're going for. Like they kind of want Matt Smith to like his version of the Doctor to just have a really scraggly, patchy beard. But you know, because he's supposed to look disheveled and whatnot, it would be weird if he had a really well groomed, bushed out masterpiece.
Yeah, I kept on expecting him to just rip off his beard and reveal that it was fake the entire time. The Doctor was just playing a big prank.
But it's, you know, it's not a terrible look for him. And Doctor with a beard, I'd be all for it. We've got Doctor with a mustache. But the next step is beard. Doctor with a mustache is great. Next step is beard. Yeah. Maybe we go full circle, right? We get Doctor with a goatee, Master clean shaven.
Oh,
wouldn't that be interesting?
Yes, please.
You know, a subversion of expectations. In New York, we meet River Song, who is covered in what are they called?
Tally marks.
The marks.
Yes.
Yeah, tally marks. And she is going through a building that has got lots of plastic sheets everywhere. Yes. Very, very lucky that there's all these accessible plastic sheet buildings in New York that people can go into. And there are silents absolutely everywhere, but there's also men in black who chase her, and they're like, hey, you're gonna come with us. Yeah. And she's like, no thanks, I will rather jump off the side of this building. Which she does.
Yes, and obviously it's later revealed that she's basically doing the same thing that Marty McFly does in Back to the Future when he's on top of Biff Tannen's building, where he's, you know, Biff Tannen in that movie is Donald Trump, and this is filmed days after Donald Trump almost got assassinated, so it is heavily on my mind, especially with all the Richard Nixon stuff in this episode, and I'm thinking, is there a worse president that came since Richard Nixon? I think Donald Trump is significantly worse.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan was really bad as well.
I think Donald Trump is the most unreal president. I think you know, in terms of, you know, Richard Nixon was in Futurama and he's heavily depicted in like heaps of parodies. Ronald Reagan not so much. Donald Trump is the most parodied president, I would reckon.
Yeah. I think the hardship, that's because he's a walking cartoon character, but I think the hardship in comparing them for me anyway is like I only know Richard Nixon as a fictional character. You know, because obviously he was president in the 60s. So,
Yeah.
like, that was a long time before I was born. So anything, like, he was dead before I was born. So the only things I know about Richard Nixon are archival footage, historic tales, and TV adaptations of him. So in my head, he is probably nothing like what it was actually like to live under his, what's the government? But with Trump, you know, obviously that was during my formative years as a teenager.
Yes.
And just hell. Just absolute hell. And the idea that there's even a chance it could come back, insane.
Yeah. That last, you know, between like 2021 and like 2023, when Donald Trump basically went silent, bliss. You know? I almost forgot about him.
That was a good time. But River jumps off the building, and this is something that we see River do constantly in Doctor Who, which is basically kill herself, but knowing that the TARDIS is going to get her. She does it again. I don't remember what episode it is, but she gets sucked out into the vacuum of space, and the Doctor timey-wimeys himself to grab her.
I do not remember.
I don't remember the specific
It's
episode,
been a
but
while.
I remember the scene. Yeah. Meanwhile, we see Rory on top of a dam. He's covered in even more tally marks, and he gets quickly surrounded by the men in black and gives up as we go back to the Lego house, which is now completed.
Yeah, I think,
as two body
not to
bags
interrupt you,
get
but
dragged in.
I think this is like the dam is the last of the footage in America they shot. You know, there's not that much in this episode. It's all studio based.
Everything else is inside.
Yeah,
everything else. I actually don't think there's a single exterior scene for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, there is an
Just quickly-
exterior
right
scene.
Right at the end.
Yeah.
Right at the end, there is.
Yeah, and there's also an exterior scene of, you know, the orphanage, but I think that's in Wales or London or something. Yeah.
And it's very brief as well. Inside the black cube with the body bags, we get it gets sealed up into a thing, and we get told that, okay, nobody can hear us, nobody can see us, this is a completely secure black cube. Out of the body bags burst Amy and Rory, and I think it's Amy that has the line if they need to add air holes or something.
Yeah.
Possibly Rory, but it's a very funny line. Adding air holes to a body bag. Also strange that they didn't do that anyway. Like, you know, you're sticking a live person in there, like, just prep before you stick them in it. But
And of course, it's just been like 3 episodes since the Doctor was last locked up inside of a box, you know, the Pandorica. So it's kind of weird where we're already back on this locking the Doctor in a box journey.
yeah. And but the Doctor discovers that, or the Doctor doesn't discover, the Doctor tells everybody, like, oh yeah, we're trapped, there's no way we're getting out of here, ha ha ha. And he does a cool lean onto the TARDIS, which we see has got its cloak on. Question about the cloak on the TARDIS. What is the purpose of it? Because doesn't the TARDIS already have a perception filter? So surely if they were like you could just plug the TARDIS down inside the box and they'll just be like, it's just a blue box,
I mean,
who cares?
I think the perception filter only works at 73 yards. But I think it genuinely does work. I'm not sure if you land the TARDIS inside of the White House, I'm sure Richard Nixon would notice the fucking TARDIS. I don't think the perception filter works that close up, you know.
Yeah.
So
maybe
but you know, this is Doctor Who.
I don't mind it.
Fucking
I don't mind
changes
it.
the rules.
I was just a brain puzzle I wanted to see if we could solve, but no, I don't mind the invisible TARDIS, and the shot looks really good. I actually saw this video on Twitter the other day because people were talking about this episode, and I was just somebody talking about how this is one of their favorite Matt Smith moments of him picking his whatever the fuck, what are these called?
Suspenders aren't.
Suspenders. Plinging his suspenders and leaning against the TARDIS. It's a very fun Doctor moment. As everybody runs inside, and the Doctor saves River Song as she does a fantastic upside down dive
Yeah.
into the swimming pool off the TARDIS, which leads to some logistic questions I have about how that would work.
Oh, I don't fucking understand why she doesn't just go splat into this TARDIS console.
Into the center. Yeah, that was my question, is how is she avoiding the TARDIS console, which is in the middle of the path?
It makes no sense, but yeah, it's just goofy ass fun, you know.
It is goofy. It is very silly, and it looks terrible.
Yeah,
this is probably the worst looking shot in the entire episode.
I remember watching this vividly in 2011. I'm thinking, oh, that looks shit, but it does add to the fun.
Yeah, and that the one thing that this episode's got going for it, for sure, is it's a really fun episode.
Yeah,
like this is a super fun sci-fi, slight horror element to it, a bit of like X-Files thrown in there, you know, and it's such a fun episode. Very much
not to jump the gun, but you know this gun. What works about this episode is it goes completely tonally different places than the first episode, which I think is what works about most good two-parter Doctor Who episodes. You know, if you go back to like the series 1 final, where the first part is a game show and then the second part is all about the Daleks, I think it works when the two parts are completely different, and you know, there's a story progressing through both parts, whereas we just went through Ncuti Gatwa's first season final, where the first part nothing happens, and the second part it's we've talked enough about that episode. God.
But this is the cold open finally coming to an end as they come out to the Apollo 11 launch site, and everyone's like, hell, we got to do something with the Apollo 11. The Doctor's like, no, that's ridiculous. We need to do something with Neil Armstrong's foot. And then the intro credits kick in. Absolutely excellent joke to start the episode off. When the credits started, when I was watching it earlier today, I was like, oh shit, okay. I forgot that I hadn't already seen the intro credits, because the episode just felt like it was on. Like it was like, okay, we're on and we're just going. This is it. This is the plot. I was like, oh my god, that was such a long cold open.
Yeah, it really is just a mini adventure inside of itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's insane, especially because after the intro credits, you know, we get that open up to the orphanage where suddenly it's very spooky and it's another different tone.
Yeah, but it's still wild how it still works, you know. We just went through an entire season where every episode has these weird scenes, and there's a lot about the episodes that doesn't feel like it's paced correctly. This two-parter paced perfectly, I gotta say. You know, I never feel like a scene goes on for too long or a scene goes on for too short. It feels like it's a perfect pace. You're not missing anything. I miss Doctor Who being like this.
If I had one pacing complaint, it would just be the 45-minute time constraint. Makes it for me, I feel like the villain, like the silence, get beaten just slightly too easily at the end, where it's like, oh, by the way, it's over. But I think that's also just because I want more of the silence.
Yeah,
you know, I want to have. I like this. They bring a unique feeling of horror to Doctor Who that you don't get with every villain. Like you get it with like the Weeping Angels and that one Cyberman. I'm trying to think of any other spooky villain that brings like an actual horror vibe. That's like a returning villain.
Yeah.
You know, there's not many.
The problem is, what the fuck do you do with the silence? You know, we already did bring them back, and we went too far into them.
Yeah.
I just...
yeah.
I feel like, you know, the whole thing with Ruby Sunday at the moment is... Is her thing that she can change memories, because it doesn't get mentioned in the series final?
Her thing is she's just normal. She's normal. She's nobody.
What the fuck is this memory thing all about? You know, the Doctor is like, why did the memory change? It makes no sense. But yeah, if you want to lean into the whole memory thing, I think there's something interesting if you have Ruby Sunday encounter the silence and only she can remember the silence or something like that. But I don't think Russell is interested in the whole memory thing. So it's
Yeah, I don't know what you do with the silence if you bring them back, because I don't know what their motivation is.
Yeah.
You know, like they're in charge of the planet and have been forever, and now they're not.
Yeah,
what does?
Yeah, they're kind of like
Yeah.
the Silurians, except with absolutely no motives. They have like 7 lines of dialogue in this episode.
Yeah, although they're also a villain that I think the less you know, the better.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe you just open up on an episode that's super small scale and it's like a house or something and there's silence in it, and you're like, what the fuck? Why are these guys here? Okay, what's going on? Try and solve this thing. Or you know they're trying to steal some alien information or some, like, you know, they're haunting somebody or something. I don't know. There's definitely a nugget. There's something more you can do with the silence, and I think bringing it to a smaller scale might be an interesting take for it, because like what happened with them when they became like big cosmic church people, you know, not as interesting.
Big Finish have done a unit box set where the Silence are the main villain for like 4 episodes. So
Yeah, see, that's interesting. You could do
yeah.
like a political thriller sort of.
of course, yeah.
Like this is, I mean, this one's basically a political thriller. You know, it's got the president in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. They're just cool. Anyway, we cut from the orphanage where everyone is looking, where Clanton and Amy are looking at their hands, to a flashback inside the TARDIS, and I really fucking like this scene. In the TARDIS, it's basically just Matt Smith monologuing the entire time. He's delivering so much exposition, it's unreal. But it's delivered entertainingly and written in a way that it doesn't feel like you're just being talked at. Yeah. And he's busy zapping everybody in the hand with it's like the thing in Futurama that gives you your job.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Futurama is on my brain with this 2-parter.
And going through explaining how if you run into the silence, to tap your hand and you'll be able to record and listen back to it, and that's going to be your main idea of where they are, because your hand will be flashing red, and that they don't really know who the silence are, they don't know what they look like, and that they aren't resisting an invasion, they're leading a revolution, which I think is a cool as fuck line.
Yeah,
that is an excellent line of dialogue.
That's a fucking fantastic trailer line.
Oh yeah, for sure. We then see Clanton adjust the Doctor's tie and seem very confused as to why his hand is suddenly glowing. And this is, I think, a really good way of showing us, the audience, that thing you just... Because it's, you know, it's a big concept, so you explain it to us, you show it to us, we understand. You know, and it doesn't feel like you're talking down to us at any point, because we're learning it with the character at the same time. As Clanton listens to his recording and he's like, holy shit, what the fuck? He turns around, he sees the silence, so the Doctor explains that it's a hologram, and that he also influenced him to make him change his bow tie, because there's a hypnotic element to the way that the silence work, which is interesting. What if you've got like the silence working with like a country whose government want to harm another country, you know? Like, what if they're being used as a weapon? You could do something like that. That's interesting. But I lost my point because I got distracted by
I agree,
my thought for an original silence.
Yeah, there's a lot of now that we think about it, there's a lot of potential where the silence could go.
Yeah. It's interesting, this idea of hypnotic suggestion, because again, it just makes me question why they popped that lady like a balloon.
Yeah.
What? Why? That kill feels... The silence function in this episode differently than they do in the last one. Because in the last one, they're just kind of... They're really gung-ho in the last episode. Yeah. They murder a couple people. They don't really... You never see them put a thought into somebody's head to do anything.
Yeah,
you know, this is a new idea we're being presented with.
I guess it has been 3 months, and maybe maybe they had like multiple meetings at this point, and they're like, "Yeah, we need to change plan.
Oh,
we need
yeah.
to stop killing people because people notice when people go missing. We need to plant ideas into people's heads."
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. But they are trying to figure out what the Silence's plan entirely is, and for whatever reason they influenced the moon landing. I felt like this was a stretch, whatever reasoning they come up with here, is they pushed for the space race to get to the moon so that they would invent a spacesuit, or whatever the fuck is what the Doctor says. Like, why would you need to make them go to the moon for that? Just make them go to space.
Yeah.
As soon as you're in space, you need a spacesuit. So,
But when you're having an episode that's about America, the moon landing feels like it's the most obvious choice. 'Cause that's when a lot of science fiction
the biggest
ideas
fraud in
becomes-
history.
Yeah. The idea of traveling to the moon is basically the origin of science fiction, essentially.
Because it itself is definitely fiction.
Yes,
is what you're saying.
of course, yeah.
Yes.
It's just a thing in the sky. You can't actually go to the moon. It's ridiculous.
I'm pretty sure it's painted.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's painted.
It's just a light bulb, you know. It's.
I once had a genuine conversation with a man who believed in the flat Earth theory, and it was one of the most insane conversations I've ever had, because he didn't realize I was making fun of him as I was chatting with him, which was painful from my end, but he was also a lot taller than me, so I'm glad he didn't catch on. But he was telling me how the moon in the sky isn't real. They're just projected, so it's projected up because it's like a dome or whatever, and they just project that shit. And you have to ignore a lot of basic logical questions to get to that point. And I thought I was pretty elegant with it, where I was like, oh, that's really interesting, because he also was talking about how the sun is real, but it goes around the earth, or the sun was also a projection, but the projection went around. I don't remember, but it was basically that we're at the center of the universe, and I was like, that's really I said to him, I was like, that's really interesting. I'm pretty sure they thought the same time during the medieval ages, when like religion and everything was in charge, and I was like, you know what they called that time? That was called the Dark Ages. That was the like historically the worst point in history. And he went, yeah, you're right. Religion did used to say that, and science has confused the facts and has pushed us away from the original teachings that we knew back then. And I was like, fuck, you missed my point. You missed the point I was making completely.
That's the problem, when their brain has rotted so much, you can't get through.
There's no way you can pierce them. They will find a logic loophole.
Yes, I work customer service, and 2020 was a nightmare to work customer service, because I got at least 3 customers with their own conspiracy theories about COVID-19, and all I really could do was just nod. I couldn't really say anything, couldn't get into arguments, so I could just nod.
Whenever it comes to like conspiracy theory stuff, like the idea of projecting the sky, or faking the moon landing or something like that, the amount of people it would take to do something like that, the amount of money, the amount of time, the amount of resources, it's so much easier to just tell the truth. And, why hide the fact that the Earth is flat? What does that change? Like, if the Earth is flat, that's a fundamental fact. Okay, cool. Why are we hiding that? What does that change about what it means to be human? Nothing.
It's a good thing conspiracy theories are no longer a thing, And I completely joke, but I go back to the Donald Trump assassination of last week now.
So many conspiracy theories immediately.
It's ridiculous. Twitter is just the worst.
It's so
X
bad.
Is the worst.
It's genuinely so fucking bad. My feed is becoming, it's slowly more right-wing fucking drivel brain shit is leaking into my field, into my fucking
feed.
feed. Thank you. Sorry, into my feed, and I just, it's rotting my brain, as you can tell. Anyway, back to the episode. At the orphanage, things are extremely spooky as they knock on the door. Amy and Clanton, and it's straight up X-Files.
Yes.
This entire sequence is just X-Files. They're dressed like the Men in Black. They're going into a scary house with some weird. He's like, "Oh, all the kids are in bed," and then there's huge writing in blood on the wall that says, "Leave, get out." And it's incredible. I absolutely adored this entire scene, climbing up the staircase slowly. This guy whose brain seems completely fried, and he's got "get out" like written on his wrist, and there's this really eerie element to everything going on, and it's a feeling in Doctor Who that I didn't realize I missed as much as I did. Like, it's been so long since we had a really good spooky episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's been since the Frankenstein haunted house episode, which was 4.5 years
Haunting
ago.
of Villa Diodati?
Yeah, something like that.
Is that what
yes.
that one was called? Yeah.
But yeah, Dr. Renfrew, the guy who's got the memory lapses, is inspired by Renfield from Dracula. And of course, Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss eventually did Dracula. And guess who played Renfield in Dracula in this Mark Gatiss show? The guy who loves to cast himself in almost everything. Guess who played Renfield?
Is it possibly Mark Gatiss?
How did you guess? Mark Gatiss loves to cast himself into these iconic roles. He's cast himself as the Doctor as well. He's been the Doctor and the Master at some point, I think.
I would be upset at it if Mark Gatiss was like a bad actor.
Yeah.
But he's genuinely a really good actor. So I'm okay whenever I actively enjoy watching Mark Gatiss on my screen. I'm like, hell yeah, that's Mark Gatiss. He's really good at writing and acting. What a talented man.
But yeah, the location they actually shot this in was a real quote-unquote haunted house. This is a place where a nun died or something. So it's got the haunted house status, and apparently some crew told Karen Gillan there were some bats flying around the place, and these crew members tied a black glove to some string and just started floating it around above Karen Gillan's head, and she got the scare of her life. So
Excellent. I love some lighthearted pranks. But yeah, they follow him all the way up the stairs. He seems confused as to what year it even is, as he leads them off into his office. Amy splits off away, and she opens up. I almost burst out laughing when she opens up a door into one of the bedrooms, and there's a rocking horse going back and forth, creaking. I was like, oh my god, we're hitting all the horror tropes. I love it.
But yeah, this I ever have his name, Dr. Renfrew. This Renfrew guy, you really feel sympathy for this guy. You feel bad for this guy because it's implied he's had his memory lapses for at least 2 years, because I think he thinks it's 1967. So it's been 2 years of this constant thing happening to him, and it's also just completely rotted his brain, which is unlike. It's a lot like what's going on Twitter at the moment. All these people with conspiracy theories. That's my god, it's a silence all along. These silence are planting these conspiracy theories.
They're rotting everybody's brain.
That explains so much.
What if Elon Musk is just like this Renfrew guy? What if that's what he's like in real life? The silence are just manipulating 100%. Him into making the worst choices. We cut to the Doctor, who is pulling out various cables from Apollo 11, but he puts them all back together, except for this one bit, but there's always one bit left over, so that, there's nothing to worry about there, right? And as we then zoom out, it's a very fun little scene. It's a nice, I think, tonal break from the spooky. It gives you a little chuckle before we go straight back into the horror, which, if you're a little kid watching it, I think sometimes getting a break like that is needed. Definitely, where you're like, okay, I'm not just scared all the time. Amy in the spooky house suddenly has a glowing hand, and she's like, "Oh shit, there's spooky guys here." And she then notices some marks as she's tallied marks on her hands, and we get a great shot where the lightning flashes outside a window, and she's got tally marks on her face now. Awesome.
Yes, there's at least like 50 on her. It's so she's been here for at least, how long do you think? Like 4 hours?
Oh my god, like yeah.
She just keeps on turning around, repeating herself.
Yeah.
Oh my god, you're here, and then turning back around and like, oh, it's all fine. Oh my god, you're here.
Yeah, I just. She turns around and she looks up and she sees a ton of silence hanging from the ceiling, like bats or like vampires, like Nosferatu. If the guy is, if they even do like the cross arms, sort of, that's how they hang. There's definitely some vampire stuff to them. This shot has aged terribly. It looks awful, but thankfully we don't hang on it for too long. But yeah, it looks real bad.
I'm definitely more forgiving over the special effects in this episode. I'm fine with goofy special effects. It's part of the charm of Doctor Who, which is why I'm glad. With special effects of the recent season, Shudagawa season has significantly been better, but there is some bad special effects still, which I'm fucking glad about, because it's part of a charm to just look at bad special effects in Doctor Who. It's been there since the start.
Yeah, I absolutely adore even how that consistently. Since just talking about Modern Who, since it's come back, and even continued on into the shooty stuff, that the major aliens are practical.
Yes.
There's very, very rarely full CGI aliens. We got it with Sutek at the end of series 1 of the shooty stuff, and it looks terrible. It does not, like, full CGI characters just have that element of, oh, you're CG, you're not really in the room, I'm not really threatened by you. Whereas, like, the silence, they're slimy, they're gross, they're real. Like, you can see them, the light is hitting off them, they look fucking phenomenal.
Doctor Who villains always look great when you just slap some slime onto them. In Flux, I think in Flux, I guess it's because of COVID protocols, we couldn't add as much slime to them. So if you look at the Ood, for example, the Ood looks significantly worse in Flux because we don't have the slime to them. They still look great because it's a fucking Ood. It's a great design, for spaghetti mouths. But,
the Ood are amazing. What's interesting? I was just thinking about the silence. And talking about CG and practical characters, because the silence, and this could just be because they're pale and bald, but they kind of remind me of Snoke from Star Wars. But what the issue that Snoke has as well is he's fully CGI.
Yeah.
So I never believe Snoke is in the room. I never feel threatened by Snoke because he is a cartoon character in this real world. Whereas if he was a practical looking alien like that, that would be cool as fuck.
Yeah, and the thing with fucking Snoke is, you could easily make him like 95%.
Yeah, he's like a dude. He's like just I don't know, he's just like a regular dude. Yeah. I don't know why they made him like fucking...
It really makes no fucking sense.
He's a clone of Palpatine. Palpatine's just a dude. What the fuck? Like,
like Snoke is just a basic design. You could just add like 5% CGI onto him. Like,
it's like on his like mouth where he's got like a hole or something. Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
Is
it, I love The Last Jedi, but it is distracting that he is entirely CGI. Played great by Andy Serkis.
Oh yeah, but especially because so many of the other aliens in that movie are puppets with CGI added on top. Like it makes them look so much better. Yeah, what a weird choice. I've never made that connection.
Full of a trilogy of weird choices.
Yeah, I know. The Doctor is getting interrogated by some people at NASA, and he calls in for Nixon to show up to help him out, which Nixon does.
He does twice in this episode. He doesn't really have a place in this episode. He doesn't really do anything other than, oh yeah, he's supposed to be here. It's all fine. That's all he does in this episode.
It is. And he's also homophobic at the end. So, win. after that scene, which is it's a very brief scene, but
Yeah.
again, we have the Doctor scenes are the lighthearted, brief bits of chuckles intercut with the horror stuff that Amy is going
Every
through.
time the president walks in and the national anthem plays, but it's fucking hilarious.
So the episode continues on as Amy is walking through the orphanage, and a lady pops her head through a door, and she's like, I think she's still dreaming, bye, and she closes the thing again. Amy's like, what the fuck, what was that about? And she goes to investigate, but there is no panel and there is nobody in the room. This is, of course, the setup to the big twist at the end, where Amy is a doppelganger in a dream, and none of this is real, or whatever the fuck.
And, we have a situation where a mysterious lady has purpose. It makes natural sense of why she appears in this scene, because obviously she's checking up on Amy, the clone, the real Amy, sorry. And this is like her this is her subconscious seeping through, or whatever you want to call it. It makes perfect sense of why she would appear.
Yes, it does. And I haven't seen this twist or this story since it aired, but I remember it blowing me away when I first watched it. I remember it being like, holy shit, oh my god, that's so fucking cool. When I first watched it, I think that was my exact thoughts at 11 years old. And
oh god,
yeah, just
again,
so good.
I just miss the idea of mysterious woman popping up, and then getting resolved 7 episodes later and making sense. It makes sense of why she appears.
Yeah, but she goes in, and she inside this room sees a cot and a bunch of photographs on the side, and she is very alarmed to see herself in one of the photographs holding a child. And then lo and behold, the astronaut shows up behind her again, and that is a child. I wonder if they're connected in some way. Probably not, I bet.
This is the moment the internet where it says definitely River Song. The child is River Song. River Song is Amy's daughter, because I think I can't remember how it got leaked, but it got leaked, and that's all the internet could talk about. And I think people made the connection between river and pond. It's an easy connection to kind of make, because those are unusual names.
I'm extremely glad that I was not on the internet at this time, because it never got ruined for me, and I never saw it coming because I had zero critical thinking skills, so I was just in it for the ride, and I loved it. I loved every moment of it. It was a good time.
Oh yeah. That reveal 5 episodes from now, it still works, even though the twist, even though I knew at the time it got spoiled for me. It still works. The emotional impact of that scene fucking works. It's great.
As well, we see that this child has got a bullet hole in her helmet from where Amy shot at her but missed. Insert a joke about recent historical events here. And it's interesting that there's no way out of Amy tried to murder this child other than she just missed and then had to run away. Otherwise, she 100% would have shot that kid in the head. If she aimed a little bit more to the left, Amy has murdered a child, her own child. And nobody stopped it. Nobody could have stopped it.
Does Amy at any point, ever apologize to River for doing something so traumatic to her as a child?
She apologizes right. She apologizes to the child just in this scene, but yeah. Yeah, it's pretty messed up. Pretty messed up, baby.
River's whole childhood is fucking fucked up. This is such a dark origin story for River Song. You could never predict when you first meet her in series 4. It's really well done.
Oh yeah.
It's really dark.
The silence appear behind the astronaut girl, and Amy screams out in terror as the door closes behind her. Back with Renfrew and Clanton, Renfrew goes up to the door, talks to somebody, closes the door, sits back down again. Clanton's like, what the fuck was that about? And he's like, what are you talking about? And then the silence just walks in anyway.
Yes.
What did he bring him over to whisper, be like, hey, I'm gonna come in really cool. I'm going to do a really cool entrance. Okay, here we go. And then he opens the door, like, whoa, I'm spooky. I didn't understand the purpose of the silence. Just the silence, seeing the silence, just turn the handle and open the door, like, hello. Like,
he's just a dramatic dude, okay?
He is, yeah. But he goes on to explain even more that, you know, the silence have been there since the wheel and fire. You know, they have been with humanity this entire time, which really begs the question of, should you be getting rid of them? Because clearly they've been doing something to help out humanity for a long while.
Dude.
I guess that you know, they've got their own goals in mind, but you know, symbiotic relationship.
My question is, we just covered the City of Death, where the villain of that episode has been splintered throughout time. And, you know, in episode 3 or 4, we found out this dude fucking invented the wheel also. So did this dude work with the silence? Did the villain of this episode? So it's been done before, you know. Go.
But Clanton's like, I don't give a shit, I have a gun, bang, and he just shoots the silence and he just goes down. I wasn't expecting the silence to be able to be beaten by a gun. Why don't you just, like, you have the disposable of the entire United States Army, just give them all guns, tell them, hey, this is your enemy, if you see this, fire at them, and then do that.
Earlier in the episode, the Doctor explains that any image of the silence eventually becomes corrupted to some degree. Like, even the TARDIS hologram image of the silence becomes corrupted, and you can't actually remember the silence either. So,
yeah, I guess, but either way, the silence just goes down. He also says the silence is like, hey, we have no use of weapons. You know, we're that powerful. We've been here that long. Like, bro, you can. Yeah,
you are
blow this guy up with your finger. Yeah, you just go zap and he'll explode. What are you doing? Why are you chatting to him? Just zap him. The Doctor is single-handedly responsible for Nixon's downfall as he sets up Watergate for Nixon by installing a bunch of recording devices, tells him, make sure you record everything and don't trust anybody. Only trust me. So the Doctor is canonically responsible for the Watergate scandal with Nixon.
It is such a Doctor thing to do, especially in the Moffat era, where Moffat really loved the idea of a Doctor being behind every historical event.
Yes, which I kind of hate as an idea, but it's
fine.
I
mean, in Rose, we also find out that the Doctor was there during Kennedy's assassination.
Yeah, that's true. Just watching, just being like, hell yeah, I'm just watching this. You know.
I imagine the Doctor was also there with Trump's failed assassination as well. You know.
Oh, I wonder. Yeah, I wonder.
Oh, this is gonna be so outdated in like 2 weeks. All the Trump talk.
I feel like people are already not talking about the assassination attempt because Trump picked his VP and everyone's memeing on the guy because he's a weirdo. I keep seeing his tweet about The Last Jedi. I can't wait to potentially have a vice. He didn't like it. Shocker. I can't wait to have a prime minister potentially. A prime minister. Oh my god.
A vice president.
A vice president potentially who is, you know, got opinions on Star Wars. Excellent. We live in the future.
All I've basically seen of this new vice president candidate is everybody blaming Ron Howard for bringing him to the public attention. Because Ron Howard did a documentary about the dude, I believe. So.
Oh, interesting. Weird.
I kind of want to watch that documentary now, even though it's kind of scummy to support that.
Either way, I hope he doesn't become vice president. I was going to say prime minister again. We get a very nice shot of this like attic space in the orphanage where everything is triangles as they're approaching the astronaut girl who's no longer in the suit. But they don't find her, do they? They just find the suit emptied.
Yeah, because she's hiding behind. She's hiding around the corner we just walked past, I think. We never noticed her. She's really good at hide and seek.
But they also find Amy's little recording chip, which is also apparently a live streaming device, as they can hear everything that Amy is saying. Don't understand how that works, but okay. Rory gets extremely protective and attached to Amy in this scene, where he's like, I will always save Amy. She knows that I will save her. I'm her guardian. I protect her, and she knows I'm always coming. It's got a fun twist where she then calls for help for the doctor, and he's like, yeah, she knows I'll bring the doctor. Which I think, as much as this is a cheesy scene, I think it does wonders in justifying the next scene we get, where Rory thinks that she's talking about the doctor when she's like, God, I'm in love with you, and I'm finally going to tell you I'm in love with you so much, blah, blah, blah. Like this scene here where she's actively calling for help to the doctor and not to Rory, puts that nugget in his brain of, oh, she still likes the doctor, you know? But it is some bad dialogue.
Yeah, I'm honestly just really not a fan of... I feel like Stephen Moffat really mishandles the relationship between Amy and Rory quite often, to be honest with you. If
Rory has a rough time. Yeah. He's got so much patience, man.
But, you know, if you skip forward ahead to the season 7 premiere, oh my god, suddenly we're fucking divorced. And in the episode, we get back together. And the reason for the divorce is because Rory was upset because Amy couldn't have children or something, which was never established before. And I really don't understand why Stephen Moffat made some of the choices he did with these two characters. And the whole Amy... with the whole line of, oh, I fell in love with you the moment you fell out of the sky, is fucking ridiculous. Because, you know, of course it is a phrase some people use. It's not really a phrase, but but it wouldn't be a phrase like... you fucking use when you literally know somebody who fucking fell out of the sky. And you had a whole relationship with him, you know, by the end of episode 2, The Beast Below, where she kisses Matt Smith. Like, it's Rory is right to kind of be defensive over his relationship with Amy in this episode. Like, there's a lot of unresolved things from series 5.
I agree. They managed to capture the silence that's been shot as he is. We discover that their blood is made of jizz, as we get a close up of the silence hand with some wet bubbly goo that's white all over it. Very nice. And they're like, okay, cool, we've got some silence. And this is where we find out that the silence are there, because he's like, oh, silence will fall. And the doctor's like, holy shit. And he has flashbacks back to season 1, series 5, series 1 of Matt Smith's run, where we see Prisoner Zero saying silence will fall. We get a random scene of Rory just saying the word silence, which that you weren't foreshadowing that. What the fuck are you talking about?
No, it was Rory listened to that, the doctor says. And Rory's like,
what do you
silence.
Hear? And he's like, silence.
It was due to the silence in that scene. They also blew up the fucking TARDIS, didn't they? Oh, fuck.
I don't remember. But they cut to a couple other times where they mentioned the word silence and effective use of flashbacks.
Yes.
Wow.
Especially, you know, it's been a year since the last series ended, so it makes perfect sense to catch up the audience. We've been dropping these hints all along. It's a Bad Wolf kind of flashback as well.
Yeah.
It's a good reveal. It's a good use of flashbacks.
Rather than a melodramatic flashback to a scene of someone being emotional that undercuts the current emotional scene that you've got. We're watching the doctor put all the pieces together. It really works. And again, I remember Silence Will Fall blowing my mind as a kid. Of course, this comes back more towards the final in this series when the Silence show up again. Very cool.
We'll cover that someday. It's going to be an interesting episode to cover.
Back in Area 51, briefly, we get some light comedy as Clanton comes out off the box and everyone's like, what the fuck were you doing in there? You've been there for ages. How are you still alive? And he's like, well, the president's here. And Nixon shows up and he's like, yep, I'm the president. And he gives a little speech.
What have you been doing with the president all this time? Should we be asking questions?
It's a funny scene. We then get them, the Doctor and River and Rory, dissecting away at the astronaut suit as Rory is listening in to the the mumblings that Amy is giving about how she's so in love with the guy that fell out of the sky.
What's great about the astronaut suit scene, is River Song is giving all the exposition, and at no point you're ever like, why does River know this information? At no point you're like that. You don't ever think about it. It really
I think
works.
it's a benefit. I think it's a benefit to just already knowing that River is a smart character.
Yeah.
Like, you believe that River, like, we see her pilot the TARDIS, we see her doing timey-wimey stuff, we know that that River Song is at least on the same playing field as the Doctor in terms of dealing with shit. So when she is like, oh, what if it was like this? What if it was actually like this? And she's coming to these conclusions by herself. It isn't, you're not ever questioning, like, why is she figuring this out and the Doctor isn't? Because we know that River is a smart character. She's a well-written character. She's well-rounded. And it doesn't even make you think about the possibility that, oh, it's because she was in that spacesuit. She knows how it works, you know?
I feel like any other writer would have made the mistake of, oh no, the Doctor explains all the exposition, so it should be the Doctor. I feel like Chibnall would probably make that mistake. Those kind of moments where the characters are acting out of character.
Yeah. We get a very nice scene with the Doctor and Rory. Before that, we get a brief scene where in the cube where Clanton takes a video of the injured Silence to be like, haha, where this will be important later on. It's very brief. It's important to how they beat the Silence, but it's a relative. It's another comedy scene where the guy being like, oh, I don't remember why I'm here.
And the comedy continues because of how outdated this is. A video phone.
Oh my god, that phone.
The idea of a phone being called a video phone. Like, that's
and
that's not a thing anymore.
A video phone being an interesting new crazy thing. This isn't just a phone. It can take videos. Oh my god.
And the videos are basically like 120p and you could only fit like 1 minute
garbage.
of footage. Good times.
But in the scene where Rory overhears Amy talking about how she's in love with the stupid face and she's finally going to say all those things to him, blah, 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 blah. After that ends, the Doctor comes over to Rory and we get a really nice, quite long, like they really let this dialogue scene breathe between Rory and the Doctor, where they're just talking about their feelings basically, and they end up talking about Rome, because the Doctor's like, hey, this is a big thing we're taking down here, like this is like a Roman Empire, and he's like, yeah, but Rome fell, and the Doctor's like, yeah, I was there when Rome fell, and Rory's like, yeah, fucking so was I, it's so fucking good.
And the idea of how it connects to Rory, like, it's not clumsy in any way. It's perfect and makes complete sense of why we would suddenly have this conversation and why the Doctor would suddenly mention the Roman Empire versus at the beginning of the episode where of 73 Yards, where the Doctor's like, oh, this Prime Minister was really bad. He was a really bad dude.
Yeah, it comes up naturally. It leads to a very nice conversation. There's friction between the characters. Rory is clearly jealous and annoyed with the Doctor. The Doctor is trying to build that bridge and trying to connect with Rory. He's like, do you remember those 2,000 years? Rory's like, no. And he's like, come on. He's like, yeah, of course I fucking remember the 2,000 years that I spent doing nothing in the past. it's such a beautiful character moment. It's fantastic. It fleshes out Rory and the Doctor's relationship.
Yes.
And Rory's a character who's in the background so often.
Yeah.
He's in the background of scenes. He's the comedic relief, whatever the fuck, and giving him a dramatic emotional scene with the Doctor is great. Giving conflict with the Doctor and his companions is great. Giving conflict between the companions and each other is great.
Yes.
Drama and dialogue and plot is driven from people not getting along. That's how everything goes. Is you need to have friction, and when you get frictionless, it becomes uninteresting.
Even the scene with the Doctor and River has some slight conflict, where the Doctor is still upset about being in the dark about who delivered these blue envelopes at the start of the previous episodes. Just these little nuggets of conflict. I miss it so much. It's so weird to have a whole season where there's not really any proper conflicts. Was there any conflicts in the last series? Not really.
Not between the Doctor and
or any of the other heroes.
Ruby.
There's nothing between the Doctor or Kate, even.
See, there's stuff with Ruby and her mum and things, but they're all in episodes that aren't canon because there's dream sequences or whatever the fuck, or she gets possessed or something. But yeah, there's not really. Yeah, I can't think of any moment where a character's like, no, you're wrong, actually. I guess in Boom. Boom there was.
Okay.
With the flashlight when
Of course.
Ruby's like, no, listen to me right now, Doctor. I'm smarter than you. Okay, fucking don't try to outwit your way out of it. But
that's
that was written by Moffat.
brief.
All I'm
That's
saying.
so brief. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
it
no...
is, but it's a genuinely good character.
Yeah, and
moment.
there's no conflict that carries over between episodes like this. This is conflicts that's been building, because obviously the Doctor already has a mistrust of River Song. There's already a conflict built in there. And you can build that up in this episode as well. It works so well, and it's not conflict where people are just standing around shouting at each other. It's really great. I miss it so much.
It is. The episode continues on with Amy being interrogated by the Silence in a pretty fun scene that I think maybe hammers home the whole you forget what the Silence are thing a little bit, one too many times. Do we need to have another scene with a character being like, but well, hang on, how long have I've been here just for a minute? And the Silence is like, no, you've been here for days because you forget things. It gets a little bit repetitive,
especially this late on in the two-parter. This is the last time you get reminded of it, and it's like, yeah, we understand. You don't need this scene to hammer it home anymore. It's a bit ridiculous now, but it's fine as a scene itself.
Yeah. And then the Doctor and River Song show up to save Amy and defeat the Silence, and the way they do so is pretty good. I remember loving it at the time. You did bring up an interesting point that made me go, why do I like this, when we were watching the episode, which was the Doctor does commit, he does murder all of the Silence here by plugging in videotape of one of the Silence people being like, hey, you must kill us, into the footage of the moon landing, so that it imprints the psychic influence or whatever the fuck it is to make you want to kill the Silence when you see them. So there's going to be this huge big secret war happening that you're not even going to remember you're part of to defeat the Silence. It's a really cool concept.
Yeah.
Really, really cool concept. Really strange that it is the Doctor actively telling everyone to murder the Silence, and that's how he gets away with it.
There is a moment where the Doctor is like, oh, I can forgive you, if you just stop this. And then he turns around and goes, nah, I'm just kidding. I feel like if you just removed that last part of just kidding, it's the Doctor trying to give him a chance, get out of this planet, go away, leave this planet alone. And we won't kill you. Just go away. That's all you need. But I feel like that's a justification of why the Doctor would eventually kill them if they were like, "Now we're gonna stay here. We're gonna take over a planet." That sort of thing. I feel like that sort of thing should have been in here, but it's considerably better than Jodie Whittaker killing that TARDIS by having a bunch of Daleks get sucked into it. You know, the TARDIS, a living creature.
Yeah.
An innocent living creature. You just murder it. Okay.
Yeah, it is strange. My big question coming out of this episode that I don't know if it's got answered and I just wasn't paying attention or not is, why are the Silents the bad guys? Like, what are they doing to make the Doctor and that go after them? Because, like, as far as I can tell, they're just directing human history down the correct path. Like, they're like advancing civilization. They have done for centuries, and things are moving on fine. I don't know what they're doing that's make them into the bad guys exactly. I don't know if we really need to know. They're kind of just spooky, and it's like, oh, there's this creepy alien behind you. But I don't really know what their motivation is.
It feels a bit weird to, on one hand, go, oh, I like how vague they are, you know, in terms of. But then we go, oh, we don't like how vague they are. You're right about them not really having a consistent sort of plan. You know, there's no monologues from them, which is nice because they speak really slowly. That'd be like 2 minutes of screen time, just them saying one sentence.
Yeah. If this was an episode of classic Doctor Who, they would have a whole episode of monologues from the Silence. It's one scene.
If this was Chibnall, it'd be a 20-minute PowerPoint.
I do like how vague they are. I do wish that they at least had a semblance of a goal. I guess, you know, just interfering with human history is enough for whatever reason. And maybe they have a goal that gets revealed later on and I'm just not remembering it. But in these 2 episodes, at least, we never find out anything like that. But it does leave the door open to bringing them back into different things, which is what they did when they came back as the Church of the Silence or whatever the fuck.
The church on Ruby Road.
I wish I could forget the Church on Ruby Road. I wish the Silence were involved in that. But it's whatever. It's whatever. I want to...
Now that I think about it, it's a perfect decision to make Ruby get taken in by the Silence at this church, you know? With the whole memory thing, and all the memories are changing. Suddenly she's pointing at me. That sort of thing. Fucking, it's the Silence. Let's make it the Silence.
Yeah. No, the Silence can never return. Silence fell and it got fixed again.
Yeah, well, we did return. I forgot. We did return in the episode where Jodie gets broken out of jail. The Dalek episode of Captain Jack.
She doesn't try to get out of jail.
No, she just reads Harry Potter. Like 4 years after J.K. Rowling starts being transphobic, she's really into Harry Potter for some reason.
Yeah, but that's because Chibnall isn't online or connected or in touch with modern events. So in his head, J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter is still very popular.
He is.
Which
he
I guess
the
Harry
Principal
Potter
Skinner.
is still very Potter, but yeah, he is. Yeah. I think just because we were discussing Silence potential stories earlier in the episode, I had this idea before we started recording, and I want to get it on footage, so if anybody steals it, I can say that they stole my idea, which is you could do I feel like there's room for this, like a Groundhog Day type story with the Silence, where you've got somebody who thinks, or you as an audience think you're watching a time loop episode, and it turns out that it's not a time loop. They're just forcing this guy to live throughout the same day, perhaps to try and figure out some information for him. Maybe he's like a government official or something like that, or a sci-fi dude and they're trying to sci-fi him, you know, whatever the specifics are. But I think you could do a fun Groundhog Day twist on it, because like the idea of forgetting the villain is a really cool idea, and I feel like we could explore so much more of that in Doctor Who than what they get into in these other series. But anyway, River Song fucking just shoots 1,000 guys at the Silence. She starts doing like 360 no scopes on a bunch of them. Pretty sure she's using aimbot. It's pretty insane. I remember this blowing me away when I was a kid. I was like, holy shit, River's so cool. As an adult, it's like whatever, it's fine. It's a somewhat dated action scene, but it's a bit of fun.
Yeah, she's still super cool though. It's at least different in terms of what other people can do, because Amy can't fucking shoot anyone. Rory can't shoot anyone. The Doctor doesn't want to shoot anyone. So it's different in terms of like the action. And I feel like if you're gonna do a Doctor Who video game, maybe River Song would be the best choice of protagonist, because when you're doing a video game that's like sci-fi and you're beating a bunch of villains, Doctor Who games typically tend to go with a whole puzzle solving route, and there's not really much action involved in these video games. But if you have River Song as a protagonist, you can shoot everyone. You can be a scientist. You can do all these sorts of things.
I reckon you could get a really good Telltale style Doctor Who game. I'm thinking of like different video game styles that could work, because if you want to do like an action thing, you'd want a character like River Song or something. But if you want to do a more narrative driven with slight puzzles and drama and relationships, like I think a Telltale Doctor Who series would be pretty darn cool, honestly, just thinking about it. Anyway, inside the there's a great line where Rory sees River kill everybody, and he's like, "What sort of doctor are you?" And she's like, "Archaeologist." And then bang, she shoots another member of the Silence.
Of course, we also get another line where River Song is like, "Oh, you just have a sonic screwdriver, go build a cabinet." And it's as the famous Moffat line, because of course he would use it again in the 50th anniversary of John Hurt. He's like, "Are you gonna assemble a cabinet?"
Yes, I feel like he does it multiple times, all the time. It's a joke that just makes him laugh, I guess. And, it's fine. It made me laugh, I think, in the 50th anniversary. Because I would have forgotten that I had already heard that joke before, so the bastard got away with it. Inside the ship, Rory figures out that Amy was actually talking about him the entire time, because she said that he has a stupid face, and she's like, "Yeah, I was talking about you," and then they make out, and the Doctor like leers at them from across the
Rory's like, "You said when he fell out of the sky," and Amy's like, "Oh, it's a figure of speech," and it's like, is it though? It's not a phrase most people use, as we've said before. It feels a bit forced.
It is what it is, I guess. It's just how Amy talks. She's like, "Oh, come save me, you stupid face. Ever since you time traveled into my life. Of course I was talking about you, Rory. The time travel thing is it's a common phrase." We're now saying goodbye to all of our characters from the episode, as the Doctor drops Clanton off with the President again, and tells him, "Hey, stick him back in the FBI. He just wanted to get married. There's nothing wrong with that." And then he's like, "And of course people will remember you, Richard Nixon. You're president of the United States." And he's like, "Cool." And they leave, and then it turns out that Clanton wants to get married to a black man, which is one step too far for the president to agree with, and he just says, "Well, you're not getting married." And there's nothing that can be done about it because the Doctor's already gone. So
really sad times, like Clanton is probably like 80 by the time he's able to get married.
Yeah.
Depressing politics stuff.
At least, it's in keeping with real world history.
Yep.
That Nixon was
way too
definitely
depressing.
homophobic. Yeah. Dropping off River Song, they have a little flirty flirt before saying goodbye, and then the Doctor goes to leave. River's like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "What do you mean, where am I going? Did I forget to do something?" She's like, "Hell yeah, mwah, mwah, mwah." And they start making out, and this is where the very famous scene of Matt Smith's Doctor being like, "Oh,
yes.
fuck, oh, Jesus Christ, I don't know what to do," being really awkward, which is an amazing point for his Doctor, a really great characterization of his Doctor, slightly backwards to the Doctor we've been seeing in these past two episodes, where we were saying he's the horniest we've ever seen Matt Smith's Doctor, and now suddenly he isn't as horny.
Like 2 minutes ago he was flirting with River Song, issue, but now a kiss, that's too much for him, is a bit.
Flirting is one thing, but actually doing the deed is a whole other,
But this scene reminds me of the fact, I feel like if Matt Smith was born 100 years earlier, he could have been like one of the greatest silent movie comedy stars. You know what I mean? Like he could have been up there with like Charlie Chaplin. Like his physicality in this
He's
scene,
very physical, yeah.
He is amazing. He could have just been one of the greats. I'm surprised he hasn't done more comedies. Still. Like after this, he goes on to do like stuff like Charles Manson and Morbius, and now he's on House of a Dragon. It's like, this guy needs more comedies, I reckon.
Terminator, you forgot about Terminator.
Oh yeah, the funniest movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, he did do Terminator. It is I think it is very sad for Matt Smith that after Doctor Who, he tried to break into Hollywood doing movies and just got dog shit after dog shit after dog shit. But at least he's landed on his feet back in the TV world with House of Dragon, which I hear he is phenomenal in.
I mean, we forget that David Tennant went through the same thing for a couple of years. He was in the Fright Night reboot and a dozen other movies that just never worked out for him. And obviously,
Nativity. He's in the Nativity.
Oh,
movie.
Of course, with Nativity, which I feel like we should do on the podcast.
It's so bad. It honestly like a fucking fever dream of a movie. The Nativity series is insane. It's genuinely terrible.
A really fascinating movie series, which we should definitely cover. You know.
I'd rather stab myself in the eyes. Back on the TARDIS. Before, actually, as the Doctor's going away, he's like, hey, that was the first time we've done that. And River's like, no, it's not. Oh, shit. Because it wasn't her first kiss, but it was his first kiss together, which is some fun time travel-y stuff and further adds to the complex relationship.
The Doctor says, I think, something along the lines of, this is the first time. There's always a first time. And River Song's like, there's always a last as well, which is... Obviously, you know, this is her last time kissing the Doctor, except, you know, like multiple years later, there's a slight retcon with the husband of River Song where they spend 24 years together with Peter Capaldi. It feels like a slight retcon, you know, because I feel like this is her indication this is her last time kissing the Doctor.
Possibly, but I mean, like, how would she know it's her last time kissing the Doctor? She's just being dramatic. But either way, back on the TARDIS, the Doctor has a conversation with Amy, like, why did you not tell Rory that you thought you were pregnant? Why did you tell me that? And she's like, I don't know. And the whole time, Rory is listening in on that weird bone marrow chip thing that I'm not sure how it works, but he's listening in on that, and Amy knows he's listening in on that, and she's like, you big fucking creep, stop spying on me. Comes over and he's like, oh, you should have told me you thought you were pregnant. And it's somewhat lighthearted, but it ends with the Doctor scanning Amy, and we see the test saying positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, as it's scanning her. And he looks on at her and he's like, well, we could go and solve the mystery of what's happening with the silence and with this little astronaut girl, or we could go off and do some adventures and one-shot episodes for a while if you wanted to just, you know, have some fun for a bit. And everyone's like, yeah, let's do that. And that's what they decide to do, which is, I guess, a fun way of just to be like, we'll just pause the main story. Fuck it, we'll just hit pause and we go off and do some fun.
Yeah, it always feels weird when they do that, when they have to do that. Like in, I noticed it most in like series 12. You know, after the second episode where the Master is revealed and all that, and the Doctor's like, hey, let's just do like 3 standalone adventures. Or after like episode 5 where she finds out the fugitive Doctor, let's go and do some standalone episodes for a bit. It's like, feels weird.
Let's go do Orphan 55, canonically the best episode of Doctor Who television. We then, before the episode is over, find ourselves in New York 6 months later in the dark, dingy alleyways that litter the streets of gritty New York City, as a little girl emerges from some dustbins to a homeless man, and the man is like, yo, are you upset? Are you about to die? What's going on here? And she's like, yeah, I am about to die, but that's okay, because then I'll do this. Blah, as she starts to regenerate. And that's where we end the episode. I remember that ending being like, holy shit, oh my god, like that's a hell of a way to end the episode. because you're either like, is this a Time Lord? Is this the Doctor? Like, what is going on? Why is this person regenerating? I did not think for a moment as a kid that was River Song regenerating. I had no indication of that at all. And I think it's handled pretty well.
After Amy was just like, I don't know what kind of effects pregnancy has when you're in the TARDIS. And then suddenly you go to the little girl who Amy has, who has a picture of Amy in her bedroom, like, I don't know.
I was 11.
No excuse.
But it is a very good way to end the episode.
And of course, after this, we get the trailer to The Curse of the Black Spot. And if you're watching that trailer thinking, I really want to watch that episode and listen to people talking about that episode, we have the episode covered.
Yes,
so if you go to our playlist, you can find the episode. It's a time.
Yeah, just take a look through the Matt Smith playlist, the 11th Doctor playlist, and you will be able to find that episode pretty quickly. But that is the end of Day of the Moon and the end of our look at this two-parter. I think a really good opening for Series 6. I don't know if it's the strongest opening to a series we've ever had. I definitely think it is up there with probably some of the better two-parters. I think it's got some slight issues there. I'm not completely resold on the silence. They don't super do a lot of things, but they've got a killer design. It's a really good idea, and they are a really cool villain. And I think this is an episode that gets diminishing returns the more you go back to it, but the first few times you watch it, it is a pretty darn good time. I don't have any real huge issues with this two-parter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
yourself?
Obviously the mission statement of this two-parter was, let's make it a series final. Let's make it feel like a series final, and I think Moffat definitely delivered on that. It feels big and bombastic, feels like a blockbuster. It feels like a series final. It feels great. And I think it's actually the best of the series openers ever. If you flash back to like late 2021 when we covered the Halloween apocalypse,
trick or treat,
do you remember in that podcast episode we were like, this is the best series opener since the Impossible Astronaut?
Yeah, that's true. We were pretty excited by it. Impossible Astronaut was pretty good. It's got nothing on the Halloween apocalypse or Flux in general, I reckon.
But yeah, this really holds up. I'm a few little complaints here and there, but it's like a solid 8.5 out of 10. Really, it's really solid stuff.
It is very, very fun. I enjoy it a lot. And that is all we have to say on Day of the Moon. So, if you enjoyed this podcast, why don't you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button below, and never miss an episode. We upload new episodes every week. And next week is the news. So we shall be potentially doing something different come the news time. I assume we will probably be doing it on Friday the 26th when the news is due to come out. We haven't actually discussed this before.
Yeah.
We're very professional, so I'm gonna preempt and say we'll do it on Thursday or Friday.
We'll see.
But
keep an eye out. We'll update the social media at some point. Come Monday, okay?
Yeah,
we'll
sure,
see.
yeah. On the news, we will be live streaming our recording of the news instead of just recording and then posting. So feel free to come along and chat with us. We're going to be covering all the Doctor Who news from the past month or so and just general chit-chat in general, because I don't know how much Doctor Who news there's really been. Not that much. Just a lot of backlash and stuff against
some pretty big stuff, to be honest. Some rumors. Okay. Of course, is it next Friday? I said next Friday the Comic-Con panel happens, because we might delay if it. We'll see.
Okay.
Because we might record after the Doctor Who panel if there's bigger news coming out of that. We'll see.
Okay. Well, make sure to follow us on our social media so you can keep up to date for when this live stream is going to be happening. You can follow us on Twitter at Watches Doctor, on Facebook at Who Watches Who, or I said subscribe to us here on YouTube. We have a Discord server that you could join as well, which is probably one of the better ways to keep up to date with everything that will be going on. We have nothing else to talk about. Buy my book, Can You Taste the Color Orange? Fun little sci-fi story. And other than that, I think that is the end of the episode. So thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.